So yeah, welcome to the December OIC meeting. And April, I appreciate your New Year's resolution. That never to have one. Anyone else?
It's too early to think about it. My last year's New resolution was no carb, like no pastries. I think I did okay, but I think for next year I was gonna do like my coworker. She says she does like 1,000 squats like every day or something. I was like, I can't do that many, but maybe I could try to do at least like 50 to 100 squats. I'm going to try to do more exercise this year.
Right. Well,
Hey James, just so you
yeah,
know, I got an email from George. He's asking to be let in, but I don't see him on here. It looked like he joined the Teams link earlier, but I had joined that just to double check, and he wasn't there. So
thanks.
I
Yeah,
I,
I
I
just,
resent him the link.
oh, me too. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Andrew, that's a good one. Anyone else before Andrew gets to talk a whole bunch more for our next item? Be good to eat healthier. Yes. And thank you, Angel. No, you're good. All right. It's we did a lot last meeting, and so we have a lot to recap. So Andrew, if you're willing to take it away.
Yeah. So to start this off, we've had two parts of 35 request 35 already go into the system. So the new cancellation text, the rewording of how the appointed cancellation appears, and options to provide available times and dates. So those respectively have gone in the November 27th and the December 11th build. I guess December 11th build is coming this week. One thing I want to point out with that is, even though for 35B that we haven't introduced the worker portal side of that, there still will be, that information will show up in worker portal as part of the task that is created when an individual cancels and reschedules their appointment. And then we'll further we'll add to what is portal side with a later part of, I believe, 39. But yeah, with the last meeting, we approved 35C, 35D, and 35E, which are all currently scheduled for March 12th. And then go to the next slide. Request 39 and request 50 as well will both go in the March 12th build. So that wraps up 35 and 39. So by mid-March, we should have that whole the all-encompassing updates to appointment management from ONE Online Portal introduced into the system, as well as the waitlist status for applicant portal or online portal and the mobile app. And then, request 59, that is going in this week as well for the changes to the earned income screen for the display on that. And the first in a series, the self-employment unearned income and specific income screens will be updated in a similar way, but will come in later builds because we weren't able to fit all of that into one.
Any questions? Like I said, there was a lot we finished up last month.
Hi, James.
Welcome, George.
How far down are we on the agenda?
We're just doing the recap. That's all. So we're about to. So we're pretty early on it. In fact, I think the next thing we can go ahead and do. We have had the same fine co-chairs for the duration of this group. Basically for the last year and a half. And I know that in theory, the co-chair terms are 2 years. But I don't know about all of you. I've been very happy with our co-chairs. George and Vanessa have done exemplary work. But Vanessa's had some changes going on and we're looking to find another co-chair for her role. And Vanessa, do you want to add anything? Or George, do you want to add anything?
Yes. Guys, this was a surprise to me too. Vanessa will be well missed as co-chair. From what I'm understanding, she's still going to be on the committee, right, James?
Yeah, Vanessa, go ahead.
Yep, I still plan on being here and continuing to support the committee however I can. I just at this time cannot commit to the time for co-chair. It's not much. I just have a lot going on. So yeah, if anyone was interested in jumping in as co-chair, it'd be amazing. If you have questions for me, for James, I'd love to connect with you. I'm gonna just still hang in as co-chair until we find someone to be the new co-chair. But yeah. And I think it's just one additional meeting per month. And before our normal meeting, so not much.
Just for the record, if anybody that chooses to take Vanessa's place as co-chair, you'll be with James and Dion and Andrew and Samantha closely on doing the agenda before the real meeting. We do really exciting things at the pre-meeting. And we all like it. So if you choose to be co-chair, I'm willing to work with you, just like I did with Vanessa.
And I'll add to that, just shows how smart and clever Vanessa is. You know, she's got a lot going on, but it's not that this is a huge workload. It's just, you know, a piece. It's an extra meeting. We will have some questions, but you know, just to talk about how the sausage is made a little bit. You know, what we'll do is as a staff, we'll meet and create sort of a draft agenda to create a bunch of options. And then when we meet with co-chairs, like, hey, here are these options. What do you want to do? And then what often happens in that co-chair meeting is they'll come up with more ideas. And that's the way it works. I think it'd be a great opportunity for anyone who wants to be a little more involved. It's not a huge commitment, like Vanessa said, but so while you're thinking about that, we have to think about our process. Now, if someone wanted to step up and everyone was fine, we could solve it now, but I was sort of expecting that to allow you all to have some time to think about it. And then, you know, maybe next session we have a vote or we have statements, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. It's not cast in stone. And I always know it's difficult to throw a surprise open-ended question to a group, but I would love to hear any thoughts or concerns that people may have.
Anybody?
I'll note our attendance is a little low for this meeting too. We're missing a few people, but um,
James, how would if someone is interested outside of the meeting, who would they contact? Would it be best to contact you, me, George?
yes, any of the above. But I'll happily take those emails.
James, I had a quick question.
Yes.
Were we gonna be keeping the same meeting date and time for next year?
In fact, that's something on our agenda.
Agenda?
We did talk about I and I think I know it's been a month now. We agreed to the second Mondays of the month from 11 to 1. So we'll be going through the lunch hour, but that will start that'll start next month.
And for these co-chair meetings, when will that take place?
An excellent question. We had not finalized the new meeting time, so I think that could be flexible to whoever decides to become the co-chair
Mhm.
to make it work for their schedule. Right now, it's basically, yeah, it's the Wednesday before at 10 o'clock. But like I said, that's flexible.
Maria, what we do is we have a pre-meeting first before this big meeting.
Yep.
And whoever's co-chair that works closely with me, I'm willing to work with them closely on the agenda, and that's what our thing is.
Okay, so for instance, right now, the way we have it scheduled, it would be the 8th I'm sorry, I said 10 o'clock. The 8th at 11 o'clock is actually what our time is scheduled. But whoever wants to be co-chair, like I said, we'll adjust the time. And the next meeting will be on the next full committee meeting is on the 13th. All right. Well, you know, and I'll add one other thing is that one of the things we had discussed at the very beginning of this group was to have one co-chair among benefit recipients and one co-chair among community partners. So we want to, if possible, keep that alignment as well. But given that most of this committee is in fact from a community partner, we should be in pretty good shape. So looking at Maria, April, Brandy, Susan, Sydney, any of you, it would be wonderful to have you. All right.
Judith,
Oh, go ahead, George.
even if Judith wanted to, that would be good.
I can't. I chair so many things right now. I'm having a hard time keeping my head on.
Okay.
But thank you, George, for thinking of me.
Okay, I will stop guilt tripping you right now, but I will guilt trip you via email. Okay.
Okay, James, you want to tell them about the facilitator change?
Yeah, so there's been some more discussions behind the scene. It's and some more updates. So I'm going to start with a little bit of the ending. There's a good chance there's not going to be much of a change. Okay. But that's not 100%. That's open. We'll see. Okay, I'm starting with that. All right. But my position is coming to an end. I'm on a rotation. And so however, there is another position within OEP that has opened up that I will be applying for. And this is the part where it's like, maybe, there's a decent chance, but who knows? So I will apply for this position, and whoever is in this position will probably be facilitating these groups, or at least the role I have. Although, between Andrew, Dion, and Samantha, there's a lot of good work. A lot of people who can step in, and you'll notice Azucena is here. She was here last month. She is my colleague and will be the supervisor for this new position. So this is a role that she can step into as well. So we have a lot of backstops, a lot of people who can help here. But this, I know at the very least I'll be here through January, and then it's like, not sure, but we'll see. So, but like I said, since I'm applying for the position, there's a decent chance that I can remain in this role. But I mention all this not to worry anyone or something, but just to be fully transparent about the possibilities of what may happen. So Azucena or anyone else, if you have anything to add.
I don't have anything to add. Thank you, James. I mean, the hope is that the hope, fingers crossed, is that James stays in the space, because I think he's been doing a great job. But if not, whoever steps in, right? We want to, we're not going to change things. We just want to help support the structure that you've all built for this space.
James,
So-
I like how you did things and how you do things. If
Thank
it
you,
comes down to where you have to go, then you'll be sorely missed. But as it was told to me, as you were telling me, with the role that you're applying for, still stick with this group, if I'm hearing you right.
Yeah. So, well, anything worth doing is always going to have a little bit of excitement with it. So, we gotta, gotta keep the ratings up for the viewers at home. So, all right.
So when is Julian coming?
Soon, I believe, is the answer. Dion?
Yeah, she's not expected for a couple more minutes. She's at a excuse me, she's doing a retreat with for this morning, and so she's stepping away from that to join us at 10:30. So it may be a couple of minutes before she arrives.
Okay, and we can do the program update.
Yeah. Well, she'll be talking about that. I think, Angel, if you go to the next slide. Yeah, that's we already talked about this, but just so you can see it in print, that our new schedule for the new year, very exciting. Due to popular demand, we actually found a time that will work. So I appreciate you all going through this process, and our planning meetings, with the new co-chair will adjust accordingly too. But I guess while we wait for Jillian, we do have a smaller topic. Andrew, if you we can talk
Hey,
about
James.
a little bit. Oh yeah.
I just had a quick question with regard to this, the meeting schedules and potential conflict. I think the conflict is in November of next year.
Yeah.
And I missed the last meeting. Was there a discussion for like what the plan would be for that, or are we waiting until we get closer to see sort of what kind of schedule conflicts
So
arise?
that is an excellent question. No, we did not discuss that. But as I recall, there was interest in the groups like, hey, we can miss a meeting. It's okay. When I looked, I noticed that Monday fell on November 10th, and I probably should double check that. And the holiday would be on the 11th. And I think Veterans Day is one of those holidays where it's got to be on that day, but I could be wrong.
No, it's on that day.
Okay.
They can't move it.
So we could probably still miss that day anyway, given that it's a day before a holiday, but that could be something that we discuss as we get closer to. Was my thinking. I'm happy to entertain other ideas.
Are we now talking about next year?
Yep, this is November of 2025.
Okay. So is there any thoughts on this, guys?
Oh, good grief. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I think it's acceptable.
Yeah. So chances are then the plan, given this schedule, we'll miss a November meeting. So we'll be more like those other advisory groups that miss a
Right.
meeting.
Can we get a cancel link on for that November for next year?
Well, if that's
Yeah, it helps.
yeah. We can definitely do that. Angel has the calendar invite, so that we can do that after the meeting.
Where is Angel?
She's here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
He's the one sharing the presentation right now. All right, so while we wait for Jillian to make her appearance, there's this thing called hearings. And while hearings, the word hearings also means legislative testimony and things like that. For our purposes within ODHS, that is typically if someone is concerned that they didn't get the right decision about their benefits, whether a denial or the wrong amount or something like that, a person can choose to appeal it and then have a hearing. So that's my introduction to this topic. And I was filling a little bit of time, but I see Jillian is now here too. So Jillian, we were just starting to talk about a new topic, but I basically just defined it. And I think now is a good time if you want to jump in. We also had a nice discussion about the future for my role, and it seemed to go well. And yeah, but I would love to turn the floor to you.
Oh goodness, the whole floor. Okay. Hi everyone. Jillian Johnson. I am interim deputy director for Oregon Eligibility Partnership, and apologize to be a few minutes late. I have the privilege of being the executive sponsor for our employee resource group for people with disabilities. And so we were in a great conversation, and I couldn't just pop right out of it. So appreciate the flexibility. So my a loose agenda, which is to say hi and maybe provide a couple updates on things that are happening within OEP. One of the things that I really wanted to make sure to share with this group is around a language access expansion project that has launched, and it's chugging along. James, has heard much about this?
Not this group. We have not talked about it. And that is an excellent topic to discuss.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm so glad Azucena's here, because she is supporting this work as well. And so if I misstep in my sharing of information, or if you have questions that are more complicated, hopefully we can navigate them as a team. So basically, we are on for the past almost a year and a half, I believe, towards language access within the ONE system. And so with a little framework, right, that is that increase correspondence translations in ONE. Right now, what happens is that ONE translates for a small number of languages the different correspondence. For people who languages other than those core languages, there's 9 of them, I believe. I'm looking at her when I say numbers. There's 9 of them, I believe, and then those notices have to be manually translated, which means that individuals in our state are receiving notices in the language they request, but on a delayed time frame, because it can take several weeks to have those notices manually translated, generated, and sent out. It's a significant disservice, and it puts people at risk. You know, if it's information saying we need more information, or your benefits could be impacted, right? But you don't receive that for several weeks. That's a huge 11. Thank you, Azucena. I appreciate that. You know, that's a really huge impact. So it really is language access to ultimately translate a core group of correspondences into pretty much every verbal or every language that can. Ultimately, we will be able to send them correspondence in that language. It'll also include an expansion to include text messaging in the languages that people, as much as technology allows, into those languages that people are requesting correspondence in. And so the first will be a phased approach, and it'll happen over, but it'll be in January, or the end of the 29th of this month. There was a small delay that didn't have, you know, characters that are, I don't know what they're called, basically characters used in English commonly. And so this is essentially the largest language access expansion that our agency's ever done. And we are going to be really trying to keep a close eye on the numerical data, as well as the experiential data through, you know, engagement with partners and community members, to understand what the impacts of improving this are. You know, our preliminary data does show that in some circumstances, people who speak, request correspondence in a language that hasn't been, isn't automatically accessible through the ONE system, have a higher potential to experience delays in benefits or loss of benefits. And we want to be incredibly responsive and respectful of that information. And the plan will be to utilize that information as we go through the implementation of this expansion to help gauge effectiveness. So that was something that I think is exciting and positive, that I wanted to bring to you all today. Are there thoughts, questions, concerns, all those things?
Hi, Julian. This is George, the co-chair meeting. Many people are very curious about if anything is done about dialing a toll-free number or a telephone number and being able to get into talking to somebody that is a person and not a computer. They want to make sure to get their business done on their account through the food stamps instead of having to wait weeks or whatever to get notices. Have you resolved that problem on phone numbers yet?
You know, right now, there's a lot. What we aim to do is provide a lot of choice for people in how they engage or access information with their benefits. Some people actually would prefer to just log in and be like, what's going on? Tell me, done. I didn't talk to anyone, right? And the more that we utilize those avenues, the idea is that we create space for the people who do want to talk to someone to get to someone, you know? So then me, who wants to just log in, get my business done and never talk to anyone, because that just happens to be my preferred pathway, then I'm not blind for the people who are like, I just want to talk to someone. And so it really is a balance. Does it mean that if you call the ONE customer service center, you won't go through some type of phone tree? You're going to have to, because we don't have, you know, the legislature has OEP eligibility staffed at 58% of our current workload model. You know, that's how we get our staff, is through Ways and Means and the legislative process. And so we have to maximize a lot of these opportunities for like self-service. But the idea really is the more people who want self-service, who engage in it, then there's space and room. Now, is that perfect? No, we got a long way to go. And a lot of it has to do with communication and how we're communicating to people who are receiving ODHS benefits and how we're communicating with the partners, from people who are supporting individuals in accessing those benefits, so that understanding sort of the full array. And then we're also working hard to continue to opportunities, so that if someone really does just want to call in and they have to report a change of address, that can happen quick. And then people who want to have a longer conversation because they're having challenges with their Medicare and their Medicaid matching up, then there's more space and time for those more complicated things and to really provide what people need. Does that answer your question, George?
It does. Here's my next question.
Okay.
How is your department going to adapt to what they call Windows 11 that's coming, since Microsoft is pushing everybody out of Windows? Your guys' systems being set up.
You know, I do not have an answer to that. I see James taking notes or seeking more information. Usually Office of Information Services that supports both OHA, the Oregon Health Authority, and ODA Office, which works with the Department of Administrative Services, right, which supports all state agencies, DMV, ODOT, ODHS, et cetera. And so my expectation is that they are fully aware of that, but we'll do a little sleuthing to make sure there's appropriate planning happening in regards to that.
The reason why I asked it is because of two reasons. One is, I don't know if all you're aware that by December 31st of this year, the new Outlook email address system is changing. They're taking out the old one and renewing the new one for the new system. I've got both, so I've transferred over to the new system on the Outlook. And come October 14th of next, there will be no support in Windows 10, which means everybody will have to pay a year for updates come next year.
Wow.
And I was wondering if you guys are already ahead on that.
To guess, I would say that we're already ahead and that there's probably I've been with the state long enough. We have switched platforms for different types of software and systems because the support was going to no longer be available, or because it would cost us so millions of dollars to continue. I haven't seen any communication specific to it, but we'll do what we can to find out what our information service offices are aware of, and if there's anything we also need to us less some of us less techie folks need to be aware of.
I will let you know that the new system of Outlook email is not that easy from the beginning unless you get used to it.
You know, it's hard. We get very used to things. This is here, I know these buttons, and then one little thing changes. And I mean, it could be a social media platform and everyone's like, what's happening? Old blah, blah, blah. And when it comes down to being able to do business, to advocate, to communicate, I think it's even more important. So I did have one other topic that I thought would be bring to you all in terms of awareness. You know, I mentioned our average staffing funding for eligibility work, and part of the supports that we've been receiving in terms of managing workload, right? Supporting the vast number of people, 1 in 3 people in the state getting benefits through the one, has been that so the Oregon Health has given funding to support the unwinding of the federal public health emergency. As part of that, they contracted with a company called PH Tech, and that company has been providing support services to the ONE Customer Service Center. So it's the majority of it is individuals calling in, and their average answering time has been like within 30 seconds. It's been very minimal before someone gets to speak to a person. They sort of triage the call and help direct the person to where they need to go. We know that about 1/3 of the calls that PH Tech has been receiving are actually transferred out to agency, that they're not actually ODHS calls, right? Maybe someone needs to connect with Social Security or connect with a different partner or somebody in their local area. That contract ends 12/31. The end of this year, 2024. And so the work that these individuals with PH Tech through this Oregon Health Authority contract have been doing will be that's significant, you know, that's 200 people full-time, 5 days a week that have been handling a lot of our initial phone calls. And it's open enrollment, right? till the middle of January. And we do tend to, right, post holidays, see an increase in people seeking supports. Often, families see people when they haven't seen them for a while, right? They talk. There's different levels of connection traditionally for people during this time of year. And so we've been doing a lot of work to have plans for supporting people connecting with the One Customer Service Center. That being said, we do know that wait times will go. We've been averaging pretty well less than 15-minute wait times for when people call the One Customer Service Center in terms of an average. We will probably see 45 more. It's frustrating. We explored opportunities. Could we expand this? There's federal rules CFRs, they're supporting like a call center when it comes to federal programs. So and the money is spent. The money is spent. The contract is finalizing. It was tied to the unwinding of the public health emergency that is nearing its completion. And so some of the things that we are doing is sharing how those calls are routed. Some of those calls will continue to go to sort of our support staff for initial answering and connection, and some of those calls will go directly to others, right? And so I wanted this team to be aware that this is going to be occurring, that we are working on different mitigation strategies. There's been a couple different options. We're, based on the data available, working towards one, but we have contingency plan. Things become more unmanageable. I will say though that, last year, during open enrollment, we had much more facilitated marketplace. We have seen increase in the work being done for open enrollment. And Judith, I see your hand. I'll get to in a second. We've seen an increase, and yet we're still completing work at, like, I think the number I saw this morning was 86% higher rate than we have in previous years. And so through the creation of the ONE Eligibility Partnership and a lot of the efficiencies that have been created in ONE, including, right, all the really wonderful work of this committee, I think that a lot of that has, we know actually that a lot is to be in a better situation for the contract with PH Tech ending and not having that additional support as we have been in previous years. So that's my little PH Tech. Here's what's happening and what we are are working towards doing and what we are monitoring. And Judith, thank you for being patient.
No problem. So did you hear us all gasp when you said 45 minutes? So have we?
Which is still shorter than it was a year ago.
Oh,
And is terrible, right?
So
like that's those things both exist.
So do we have the callback system?
Yes, we do. We do have the individuals can up to a certain point, right? We cut it off at a certain point because we don't want people to be given an option to not wait on hold and get a call back, and then we don't have the staff to call them back, right? Like, so there has to be a limit there, but we do have that callback option. And Andrew, I know, you're part of this team that does a lot of that work. So if you have things to add, or if I'm saying things that are not like not completely in line, please jump in. So, you know, so there is the callback option. We are working on implementation of interactive voice response, which gives, you know, expands those self-service options that I was talking about for people who can utilize those, prefer to utilize those. It can reduce, you know, traffic. We've had some challenges getting that implemented just because of the multiple different systems and capacity of those systems, but are working hard to continue to implement sort of those self-service options. So to George's question earlier, people who are calling in that really do need to speak to an individual and their preferred method is to call, can access. You know, people can still call local offices as well. The One Customer Service Center isn't the only point of access to gain that support, but sometimes that type of connection is preferable. But also, you know, if it's me, my first choices are, I would like to do it online and never talk to anyone. Okay, if I have to talk to someone, I would like to just talk to them from my home. You know, for me, going into an office is a last resort. For others, that's their preferred choice. And so again, the idea is, how can we implement enough options so that's available? But also, one of the things I've been thinking about lately is, how are we communicating that that there are these different options and when it might be appropriate to utilize them. I think that, you know, people get a notice and it's like, call the One Customer Service Center, here's your first point of contact. And so you go there, because further down on the next page or whatever is the information about how to connect with the local office, right? So I think that there's a lot that we can do as we continue to evolve to create opportunity for people to have grander awareness of their engagement opportunities with our agency.
Julian, this is George again. Have you considered before the 31st of December, because of this train collide here soon on the call system, sending out notices to all the consumers, to the mail and emails, and letting them know about what's about to happen?
So I have a meeting later this afternoon with ODHS's communications branch to talk about those external communications and how we will be working to inform the public. I think I'll take your suggestion forward, but I also don't think that we will have capacity to, I don't know logistically how well it will work to send out 1.5 million letters. We might be making a mountain out of a molehill, you know, because we're still in a better position than we were a year ago, even with a lot of PH Tech support up because of this change. And call wait times are better now than they've been in a very, very long time, like in years. And so one of the questions there is, how do you make sure there's awareness while also not creating a swirl of panic, because we're still doing better than we were. And so that'll be the conversation that we'll be having this afternoon, is around approach. I do think that there may be an element of the sky is falling approach to it, but likely that's because we're on the cusp of a legislative session.
Well, we'd like to suggest maybe between now and the 31st, maybe send just like a short message when someone calls to customer service, to kind of give them a short message about what's happening on the 31st, and maybe post it on your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate those suggestions, George, and the communications team today to sort of flesh out a plan.
Andrew, go ahead.
add to what Jillian was saying. Obviously, not everyone will be able to manage their own benefits without having to reach out. But a big part that this work group and the work that we do can play in kind of helping that is what we can do to families and individuals to be able to self-service through the online portal and through the mobile app. And so just kind of keep that in mind as we're moving forward on what ways we can do to make the option of self-service through the online portal and the mobile app attractive, official to individuals and families.
That point, Andrew. I expect that will be a large part of the conversation, but also here are options, and that not just individuals with benefits in one, but also the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of community partners that we have that are doing the work. How are equipped with this knowledge?
And
Julian, can
George, I just wanted to point out that Jillian's got yet another meeting she's going to have to run to, but if you have something quick, go ahead.
yeah, I was also asked to Julian that maybe with Vanessa and Brandy and Maria and Susan and April, when they've got it for their clients, I would like to suggest a system. So if they can't, if it's taken long for them to call customers, maybe they can fax guys and get a reference back that way, since your contract will be ending here on December 31st. I mean,
we did there's the community partner phone line that we set up. The challenge was something like a fax would put it into the larger statewide bucket of work. But comes to, we did create a partner focused team within our One Customer Center with the sole purpose of community partners getting quicker responses than if they accessed the general queues. And so really the intent being like, people go to community partners for support and getting benefits for a lot of reasons. And some of those are, there's accessibility, transportation, but there's also trust and language and culture, and all of these really matter. And so we will be keeping a close eye, and as we have been, on that community partner queue to see sort of what's happening. Because what happens is if it ends up being like it'd be a longer wait for some reason, that work goes into that general queue for general eligibility workers. And we really need to continue to make sure that we're aware of how often we're doing that, when we're doing it, why that's happening, so that we can have the resources focused on the community partner aspect. So not exactly what you're suggesting, but I do think that there's a lot to continue to and grow. And thank you, Susan. There's also that email that's tied to that, and hopefully that continues to receive quicker and more timely responses. But we are trying to be very aware, we are keeping an eye on response rates and data that can indicate a need to shift those types of resources. And so I really apologize that I was a few minutes late and that I can't stay more than a few minutes after my agenda time. But, I am proud of the work of this committee. I hope that you are all there. I expect that mentioned in upcoming legislative testimony as a point of huge success and engagement, and a reason for why we have seen the improvements we've seen over the last year. Really nice to see all of you, or hear you, or this year and hope you have a great December.
Thank you, Jillian.
Bye.
Thank you.
So, it occurs to me we forgot to ask her about data reports and feedback for the group, but we'll bring that up with her. But I think we touched upon that a little bit last month. But in any case, I think we're due for a break. We're a little overdue. So we'll come back in 10 minutes to talk about hearings and the rest of our agenda. So plan on getting back at 11:15. And the recording's back.
Hello, hello. What's on our next agenda?
So, Angel, are you back? Or I can put it up too.
Is Bean on vacation?
Unfortunately, well, not vacation, I think a conflicting meeting.
Oh, okay.
Is that accurate, Andrew?
I actually think Sam wasn't feeling well today.
Oh, okay. Here, Angel, if you go back to the hearing slide. So before Jillian came up, I started talking about hearings. This is the part of the appeal process, and I'll admit I'm not the biggest expert in hearings. I just know a little bit about it. But one of the things, if you get a result, if a person gets a result that they don't like, they think is wrong, is the big thing. Not, if you don't like it, that's one thing. But if you think it's wrong, then you can file paperwork to say, I want a hearing, or you could go to an office and say that. There is not well, I mean, there's some clever ways you can sort of do it within one, but it isn't really made for it right now. And so the question to this committee is this a priority? Is this something that we should put into the one system? Because it would be a bigger ask too.
Do we have to have I mean, process
The appeal
before
process is I mean, you can appeal to an eligibility worker that you worked with or to the local office that you've worked with to take a look at your case again. But if they're saying this is the decision we made and we feel that we've made the correct decision, and you still feel there has been some sort of error, or you would like a neutral third party to look at it, the process for that is complete a hearings request. And then through that, when the hearings form is received by the local office, there is a process where the lead workers in the office will review again kind of what the issue at hand is to try and avoid going to an arbitrator if it can be resolved at a local level. But if not, then part of our the rights that we provide to people is that they're able to have a neutral third party look into any decision that we made to make sure it's been done correctly.
Okay.
And yeah, so James kind of already touched on it, but to give a kind of background to the process in general, currently there is it's a form. It can be accessed online, but it's not able to be completed online. And the instructions are to complete that form and to bring it into your local office. That is not particularly equitable. Not everyone is able to get to their local office easily. Not everyone would prefer to complete the process that way, but that is where the process exists currently. And as James mentioned, a tech-savvy individual would be able to figure out how to fill the form out electronically or to scan it into their computer and either email it to us, which is an option, or if they're able to access one of the ways to complete document upload in the online portal, they can upload any file to that. And so it would be received that way. There is no official process to do that though. So that's kind of where this came up, was that folks have uploaded this document to the online portal and workers will receive it that way. So there's kind of this disconnect of like, well, people clearly want to do that. we don't have an official process for that, and it's so it deciding here is if we want to move this forward, then myself and Sam and the hearings department, hearings policy folks, we'll need to have a discussion on what that kind of looks like. It'll be a change both to how we would complete that online, whether that's a digital like form that can be uploaded, or if that's creating a new part of the online portal that is a fillable part of the online portal for the hearings process. And then in addition to that, it will comprise an operational change too, because it's would be significantly changing the process behind how hearings are managed.
We discussed a little bit about this in the pre-meeting and brought it forward to you guys to think about this, because that you guys may run into this with your
Yeah, and so really, I think we're trying to just gauge if this is something that the group is interested in, which I think we all think it's a good idea if the group is interested in pursuing this. And then, like I said, we would take it back and kind of come back with a more official proposal of kind of what we might be able to do with it. And through the kind of brainstorming process we've gone through already, we think it would be proposing a new change request, because it most likely be a much larger change than just a work item.
Vanessa, how do you feel about this?
If I think it's just like there's many things, no one's perfect, you know, there's humans and anyone can make a mistake. So having the option to have that hearing, to have your benefits reviewed, I think is huge, as well as making it expanding accessibility. Oh my gosh, my English today. And if offering that online does that, then I think we should definitely move forward with.
I agree.
April?
Here.
Brandy?
I think it would be a good idea to give people access to it. The only thing, a lot of people come to me with the notices. Do I need to appeal? Like, well, you're approved. So that's, if you don't agree with you being approved, then you would appeal. But people just get scared when they see all that language about appeals and think that they have to do something. So maybe making it clear that this is what you do if you don't agree.
Maria?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Susan. I can't say when the last time that language and what's included on notices has been looked at, and if that's current and modern, and so that may be something we can include in the conversation as well.
Oh, George, I just put it in chat. I also agree.
I didn't see that. Sorry.
Okay.
Brandy?
Yeah, sorry. I had to step out for a minute for a little in the dark. I apologize.
Andrew, you want to update her?
Yeah, Brandy, just a very quick overview of what we've been talking about is if the group is interested in us, Sam and myself, exploring the options of adding the hearings request process to the online portal.
I'm not sure. I feel neutral is my immediate reaction, but I mean, it would probably be beneficial for that as an option.
Okay, Andrew, you have it. So we could put it in what form now? CR or is it the other?
So this is kind of we're getting a little ahead of ourselves there. I would say it's most likely a CR. I don't see a way that we can implement this through one or even multiple work items. But really, because this involves an entirely separate policy area of hearings that we don't work with too regularly, I think Sam and I want to connect with some policy analysts from the hearings department and kind of see what this might be able to look like. You know, and then come back with a more official proposal of a CR, and then we can all vote on it at that point. But I guess we didn't really want to move forward with having those conversations if this group didn't want to support it.
Well, it seems like you got all the support on it, so.
Yeah, agree. So yeah, those would be the next steps. Is one of our, after we gather information, one of our upcoming meetings, we'll have another discussion about it.
I feel like I'll add what is usually a two-step here, is where I say, well, this as a change request, it's going to be a while before this can be implemented. You know, we're talking years. But then the second step that Samantha always like to add is, well, it won't happen unless you get started. So I just wanted to add that, yeah, we can definitely move forward with it, but this may take a little while. All right, but thank you for that discussion. It was good.
What's
Okay.
next on?
Yeah, iconography. This is something that has been, well, I guess the non-nice way I like to put it is festering on our agenda for many months, and we just haven't had time. So, Andrew, you want to say a few words about what you want to put together for it?
Yeah, so I think we're our goal here, kind of when we've talked about it before, is we have a lot of different icons and a lot of different functionality of the online portal that the individuals use, and it may be beneficial to have some sort of index or glossary, I don't know what exactly you'd call it, of all of the different icons. So kind of I don't think we provided a ton of time on the agenda today, but I can show what I've been working on to kind of get us started with this conversation. It's not letting me share right now. Is it possible that I can share my screen?
Oh, yeah, if you stop sharing, you should be able to.
Okay, cool. Give me just a second here. So yeah, I've been going through the online portal and trying to put this document together that highlights, you know, all of the icons that we potentially have available to us. And I was trying to really just include everything. I think as we move forward with this, if this is something that we want to do, some of this stuff we'll decide this is self-explanatory. We don't really need this to be on the type of index or glossary. But I really tried to capture everything I could. So the general structure of this is, you know, pointing out numbering different icons that are on the page here, and then describing kind of what the function of each of those icons is and where they appear throughout the portal. So I did that for the home page. I also did that for the individual dashboard. And then also went through the application to point out different icons and different functions that come up through the application. And I think as we move this forward, if this is something we want to continue discussing, that we want to review this document together. I think George had brought up the idea of doing that via email or allotting more time to it in a future meeting. But I think we would want to go through what I've compiled here and kind of decide what icons are the most important icons to include in a guide, and how we want that to be accessible in the online portal. Something that I threw out there was kind of in a similar way to the chatbot functionality. The chatbot in the bottom corner of the screen and can be pulled up at any time. Find a way to have some of the most common icons available through. It can be accessed if someone's confused about what something does on the screen. So yeah, again, I don't want to take too much time with this because I don't know how much time we had allotted for it today. But this is what I've put together so far that will kind of hopefully help us guide our conversations going forward of what we want to do with it. James kind of capture the general idea we've been talking about.
This is, I was expecting something pretty cool. This is amazing. So yeah. You're getting some praise in the comments too. So yeah, wow.
So yeah, I guess I don't really know what the next steps, if we want to take it online or if we want a lot more time in our next meeting to this. We could go through this a little bit more. We can send it out via email. Either way, so folks can have this and have this to look at, so we can all be more prepared when we do talk about it.
I'm guessing, go email and, our next planning meeting, we'll talk about how much time we want to devote to it as a topic, but.
Okay.
But George or anyone else, do you have any thoughts and comments?
Nice.
The reason that I brought it up was because when people want to run across this and there happens to be a question mark or whatever, when they're found out at the application with the system and with the application for food stamps, medical and state services, they'll have some general idea as a consumer to what it's about, what it portrays, the ideas or the yes and no's when it goes to, it will help the consumer itself understand when the icons are up there and what they're there for.
Yeah, I think that's important to do. So yeah, I will get this document to James and we can share it out over email. And then our next planning meeting, like James said, we'll come up with kind of our next steps in the discussion for this.
Who will be sending this out in an email?
Either me or Angel.
Would you just highlight the email,
You don't read all the
so that-
emails they send you?
I don't read the whole emails that you send me.
Okay.
I scan them very quickly.
I'm just
You
giving
got me.
I'm just giving you a hard time. What's a good way to
I know.
highlight an email?
Well, there's a thing that you a button and it comes out in red and it says,
Important. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yes, Dion, we can.
Yeah, because I think it's important that we are prepared to just this, and I don't want to miss and look like a goober.
I mean, that is such a nice document. It almost looks like a guide for walking through the one system in general. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if we want to use it for
okay. Andrew, yeah, I think my
I'm getting
connection
tired.
is bad. I didn't hear everything you said there.
Oh, I was just you were saying it was just like a good guide for the online portal in general. And I just said however we want to use it, we can use it that way. But yeah, the goal was that it would be helpful in leading this conversation going forward.
Right.
We can even put this on even your guys.
What was that, George?
Put this kind of stuff on your guys' webpage too.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at, is if it's something that we want to make more widely available.
Yeah, we're hopefully we'll have a page up soon that will have more information about this committee for the public and guides like this as well. I am eagerly awaiting that in the next, hopefully, a couple of weeks. But well, we're about 15 minutes behind our schedule. Can everyone hear me? Everything is frozen for me right now.
Oh, I can hear you.
I can-
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I might shut off my camera right now. But so we only have about 15 or 20 minutes left for the last part of our conversation. So I'm going to try to share our briefing sheet. So, sort of the work we usually think of as this committee. The actual work items. We've talked about one of these briefly, but update 60, or request 60, the updating the AP message center and mobile message center to state what program a notice is for. So once again, my favorite thing to do in a meeting. Andrew, you want to describe this more?
Yeah, so this one was one we had, I think, back in the summer at some point, even the beginning of the summer, talked about a little bit and pushed forward as something we were interested in doing. But to make it easier for users and community partners in Message Center on the online portal and mobile app to determine easily what program a message applies to. So currently, some of the notices will say it's a specific, or other notices don't specify. And so what we're hoping to do is add a column to the message centers that say very clearly what program this notice applies to. So if a user or a partner is trying to locate a specific notice, it hopefully makes that process a little bit easier. So when we initially pushed the word, it came back to us as not being able to be done exactly like we wanted. So basically what we are able to do and what we would like to propose is notices that are specific to a single program will be able to say what program they apply to. And now, like I mentioned, some already say that. So if we take a look at the screenshot here, we can see notice about your medical eligibility clearly, but then we have these other two in between those, the periodic report not completed and energy assistance approval. Those are SNAP specific, but they don't say that here. So those we'd be able to clarify that for notices like that and have a column that says those are specifically SNAP notices. Now, the part that is kind of a downside and something that we can't fix is I don't think okay, so this the first notice, notice, and that applies for every program in our system. And due to the way that these notices are stored in the system, we would not be able to specify what program that is for. So that would be displayed as combined. So this fix, we would be able to help with some of the notices and making some of them more clear. We would not be able to completely fix the issue. So essentially what we want to do is push this forward as a fix, fix what we can and make it to be 100% clear for every notice. So if I guess we want to vote if that's something that the committee is interested in pushing forward.
Sydney, is this a yes or no? Okay, April, is this a yes or no? Vanessa, yes or no? Okay, Brandy, yes or no? Susan, yes or no?
This was my request, so definitely yes.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, and who are we missing?
Judy says yes.
Okay, and Maria?
Yes.
Okay, so Brandy, is that a yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, you got it, Andrew.
Sounds good. We'll get it logged.
Look at us go.
Okay, so request 61. So with this request, we're talking about adding an orange banner to remind users to report deductions and add self-employment expenses to the tax deduction screen. So currently, when a user is adding self-employment income, there's an orange banner that shows up on the top of the screen saying like, hey, if you have expenses that you're reporting with this self-employment income, make sure that you include those expenses on the tax deduction screen. That tax deduction screen comes up a few screens after, and so it requires guidance or knowledge in how to accurately report that information. So if we scroll down to some of the screenshots, I can kind of describe a little bit more what we're. Screenshot is the self-employment income screen, and that orange banner on top saying, in order to determine your eligibility correctly, please remember to enter any self-employment related expenses on both the self-employment income screen and the tax deduction screen. That's pretty clear that we want them to enter it here. But then as we scroll down to the next screenshot, the next screen that they'll reach is the expense gatepost screen. And this is expense gatepost screen that's shown here is kind of a reduced version of it. It's just showing the deduction options, but depending on the different programs someone has requested, there may be a number of different types of expenses available to report here. And as we can see, the orange banner on the gatepost screen is in relation to something else. It's saying if you'd like to report a change in or an expense you no longer have, choose report a change. But we're not indicating to them how to report those tax deductions that we told them they needed to report on the previous screen. So what we want them to do here essentially is to choose, yes, I have deductions, tax deductions. And when they choose yes here, that will cue the next screen, the tax deduction screen. And on that tax deduction screen, there again is that banner saying like, hey, remember to, for correct eligibility, enter any self-employment related expenses. But the concern here is that to get to that tax deduction screen and to get that orange banner reminder again, they have to correctly answer the questions on the expense gatepost screen. And we're not really guiding them on that screen. So the proposal here is to update the orange banner here or add an additional orange banner here to remind them, hey, if you're intending to report self-employment expenses, please choose the deductions option below. So hopefully that everyone was able to understand kind of what we're proposing here. If there's any questions, we can kind of talk about it a little more. Essentially trying to help guide them to get to that correct part of these to report their self-employment expenses. I guess before we're getting to voting, I'm asking if what about makes sense to everybody.
Andrew, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
If they input the expenses in the self-employment and they input the expenses in the tax deductions, it doesn't get duplicated or anything?
No, it doesn't. And I think that's kind of we're asking them to do it is because it's it's used differently for eligibility. I think it's, you know, the deductions entered on the income screen are going to account towards how their income is being calculated. Where the deductions entered on the expenses screen is going to go towards any sort of tax deduction credits that we can give them, depending on the program that they've applied
Okay,
for.
and then just to make sure, so like in the self-employment screen, will that orange banner also pop up, or is it just after they click on the yes deductions and then the tax deduction page?
The banner already exists in the self-employment screen here to remind them to enter the expenses here. And then we're saying, hey, again, in a couple screens, make sure to enter it on tax deductions. But they're never going to see that the banner on the tax deduction screen if they don't choose the correct option on the gatepost screen. So we're wanting to add another orange banner on this first screenshot here, the gatepost screen. Saying like, hey, if you have self-employment expenses to report, make sure you choose deductions below to reach the tax deduction screen.
Okay.
So in a perfect world, when you put a deduction in the income part, it would go like auto-populate in the deductions spot, so you don't have to do it twice. Is there any way of doing that? Because I have a lot of workers who also don't do that, and I always have to remind them you need to put the deductions in the deduction. I mean, it would be wonderful if it could just auto-populate into that. If you put it in the income part, then it recognizes that it's a deduction and puts it in the deduction part, and then you can add other deductions.
Yeah, no, that's an incredible point, and that's something I can talk with Deloitte about to see if see the feasibility about developing something like that, or if there's some reason that we can't do it that way. So yeah, I think I 100% agree with you. If someone's entering deductions that could be carried over and just auto-populated on that screen, that would be the best to avoid any sort of error. So I'll explore that as well.
Any other questions for Andrew?
But I do agree with you. It should be stated before you press yes that remember, if you put anything in the income part for deductions, you need to put it here.
Yeah, I agree too.
Okay, so all in favor? Sydney? Yes or no? Maria, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, Brandy said yes. Susan, yes or no? Judith?
Yes.
And Vanessa, yes or no? Okay, April, did I get your vote? Okay, and Brandy, I got yours. Look like everything's a go.
So one thing on this one, I don't know if we want to do it now, is we have to determine exactly what the language will be in that new banner, or if we're replacing the old banner. But is that something we should work on now? Or Andrew, do you have an opinion on this? You just wordsmith now, or let people sit with it?
I mean, yeah, we can talk about it now. I don't know. So I guess what I had proposed there, we don't have to keep. That's kind of what I had just put on this briefing sheet as I was putting it together. Which is, in order to determine your eligibility correctly, please remember to enter any self-employment related expenses on both the self-employment income screen and the tax deduction banner as the income already, but then adding, please select deductions, tax deductions, just to kind of be clear about what we're asking them to do on that gatepost screen. If we like that, we can keep it. If we want to change it. Open to suggestions.
So what do you guys want to do?
Would you give us the wording one more time?
Yeah, can we scroll back up real quick and take a look?
I just, right, with that.
Yeah. So in order to determine your eligibility correctly, please remember to enter any self-employment related expenses on both the self-employment income screen and the select deductions below to enter tax deduction.
That seems pretty clear.
Yes, I would think so too.
Mhm.
I mean, I hate when I pay someone to do my taxes and hope for the best and I don't end up in jail. You know what I mean?
Yep,
So
I do.
Yeah, I don't know that there is an easily available one in the application. I think we rely on that blurb that's under deductions there to help guide individuals on if this is something they should or shouldn't report. I think in the plainest language, it's that statement at the beginning. Does anyone have expenses that could be deducted on a federal tax income return? I guess it does. Yeah, it mentions deductions include things such as student loan interest, educator expenses. Some of the expenses you may already have told us about can also be tax deductions. So not, I wouldn't say an exhaustive list by any means, but
So it's already there as to tell people what they can deduct, right?
yeah, and I think, ideally I know it's not a perfect world and this probably doesn't always happen, but the eligibility worker should be exploring this if there's any sort of question about it, or if they're trying to help determine if something can be considered a deduction when someone reports that they have self-employment income. So
I would,
probably not the best answer to your question, Vanessa, but that's what we have.
sorry, and I totally rabbit hole that, but yeah.
I was gonna just add that maybe we can also reference the application guide about the deductions. And then the other part was, would it be helpful if we added, like, please select yes for deductions below, or does it make sense if we just say, please select deductions below?
I was thinking the exact same thing. It's
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Let's go for it. Any other ideas, guys?
I'm
Going.
becoming wordier here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think how to do this.
Going. Cindy, yes or no?
I mean,
Judith?
Yes.
is this wording good? It's just something I came up with. Wordsmithing is always a pain in the group, I know, but just if anyone has any other thoughts, be happy to entertain them.
Okay, well, I got half of the yes and no's in there.
Or, James, I was thinking maybe like, please select yes for the deductions question below.
Ooh, much better.
Okay, I got Brandy's vote, Sydney's vote, April, yes. Okay, Vanessa, yes. Susan, yes. Okay. And Maria, I got yours too, right? Okay, you got it, Andrew.
What,
Great. And then also, yeah, I will remember to, when I bring this forward to Deloitte, I'm going to talk to them about the reality of potentially having information auto-populate from the income screen to the expense screen. So I'll report back on what we're able to do. But at the very least, we'll be able to add more guidance here on how to correctly get to that screen.
Andrew,
we can-
one question I have is, so is this text going to be a separate banner?
I think it would be. I think it should be.
Okay.
I don't see there's reason that we couldn't add it as a separate banner, and I think including it in what's already there would be messy. Yeah, I feel like we can trigger an additional banner.
And then we can receive the good news come January meeting.
Yeah, I should definitely have an answer on what direction we were able to go with it at our next meeting.
Andrew, this banner is when you're reporting a change. Is there I don't know if there's a banner when you're applying in a new application?
So the tax, this current one that's here, I think you're making a good point. This for change action, so I think this banner wouldn't show during a new application, or so I think it would show during reported change or renewal if there was existing information reported. If this was a new application, I don't think this banner would change because that reported change checkbox option on the screen there wouldn't be available. So I think there would only be certain circumstances where we would have two banners on the screen at once. But the tax deduction banner we're talking about should display for any case circumstance, as far as I know.
Cool. Well, we are at time, and as much as I wanted to do one more, which Susan also requested the next one, we'll save it for next month. But I just want to remind you all that we have a new meeting time next month. Will be a Monday, still a Zoom. It's a new Zoom link, but your agenda has that. And think about being the co-chair. It will be a good experience, and you get to think about what this group should be working on a little more. So would really appreciate anyone expressing their interest, because otherwise I will send emails that hopefully you will read. So I couldn't resist starting, Judy.
Yeah.
Are we at the end of our agenda, James?
Yeah. Well, we're at the end of our time. Not quite the end of the agenda, but
Okay, so with that being said, I want to let everybody know that in our before this one, a thing had came up that you all should know, that on notices that's been coming out that don't display phone numbers and such, I brought up the idea on the notices being a little different. And remind me if I'm right, Judith, but I think Sam agreed with me on it, that consumers aren't getting the phone numbers where they could call or
Right.
contact people with. So I brought that to James and the crew, the idea. So that will probably be another thing we'll be working on too, hopefully, are the notices. Sam likes the idea.
Yeah, and I can say that she followed up with our so another member of Sam and I's team is Lucas Belch, and he's the focuses on correspondence and language services, and he's been looped into that conversation as well. And I don't have much else to share there, but I know that Sam is kind of taking it back and is looking at what we can do.
So is there anything else you want to say, James?
I just appreciate you bringing that up. That had slipped my mind. So thank you for remembering that.
Okay. Dion, anything you want to say?
Oh, very productive meeting. Really enjoyed it.
Is this our last meeting for December?
Yes.
Okay, Merry Christmas.
Unless you really want another one.
Merry Christmas.
With that being said, nothing else to be said. I wish everybody with your families and prepare yourself for the new Outlook email system.
All right.
December 31st. You got to change over to the new one. So I will see you all in January. And James, please, please get somebody to give us all the invites for the Zoom. That way there's no mix up. Like I had Microsoft Teams and I didn't
Yeah,
have
mine
the
comes up
Zoom.
Teams too, but I
Yeah.
had one. Yeah. That's okay. Bye all.